right, so welcome back to Paging Poly. So we're going to do a quick tutorial on how to import and export projects in Paging Poly. So I realize I missed this one in the quick start, you guys, and I apologize for that because many of you probably have started projects other places and you want to finish or edit in Poly. So we're going to go over that now. Exporting your entire project really quickly, we're going to do a little note here at the top end. If you are updating Paging Poly or you are updating to a new version of WordPress, I highly recommend that you do an export all projects. It's just an extra layer of security. For the most part, neither of those updates should affect your current projects, but it does not hurt to do a full backup before you update to a new version. So that is something, just word to the wise. And honestly, I highly recommend you guys export all of your projects via the JSON file at least once a week. Things can happen. Your host could go down. You could have some random file corrupt because maybe you copied it from a chatbot and there was a code in there and you didn't realize there was a code in there, or who knows what the case may be. But it is always wise to have backups of your work. I really love redundancy to like the nth degree. So usually I will do the export JSON at least once a week. And then I also have WP staging that I'll do a separate video on that does a backup of the entire WordPress site. So not just my projects, it does a backup of all of my Paging Poly settings. It does a backup of the theme, all of that, so that if anything gets corrupted, it can be brought back very quickly. And I have that export to my Google Drive, not just the local host server. So just a little upfront, always be backing up your work, you guys. Okay, so we're going to import a document. And I'm going to show you what that document looks like as we start. It is exported in a format that would work really well to import into Vellum. So depending on what software you're coming from, or if you are writing yourself, this is the export file type that is going to work well with Poly. Okay, so this is a project that I was working on. You will see here, this is oh, you can't actually see that. Hold on. Oh, hold on. Let me pause while I get this to move so that you can see the headings. Hold on. Okay, there we go. So now you can see that this is a heading 1. This down here is a heading 2. And you will see if I scroll down here for some of this first chapter, there is italics, there's some bolding, and then I believe in the second chapter, there's a scene break. Maybe not. No scene break. But the very first chapter has some italics going on and has some bolding going on. So this is a good example. I'm going to show you really quickly another one that would also import in correctly. And this is another project. So you will notice there is a hash here. There doesn't need to be a hash anymore. So we can just delete that because it'll just go into the name. So we're just going to delete those. I'm not going to do all of them. So that's why it's important that these are heading 1s. You can have heading 2, 3, 4, 5, as long as heading 1 is only your chapter and your chapter name. That's the key importance here. Okay, so we are going to come back into Poly, and I'm going to say import, and I'm going to say import docx. And let's see if I can drag and drop. I'm not sure if I can. No, I cannot. Okay, so I'm going to have to do a choose and show all files. Okay, I'm going to register that over here so that I can pull it up. So I've just selected the 7 days to fall, and I'm going to go ahead and open so you can see that is the file. You're going to hit next. It is parsing now. And now it's going to tell you create your project. So I'm going to add in some spaces because it pulls from the name, and we're going to set a author. This is a novel. This is adventure. Pretty good spell. Adventure romance. We're not going to worry about a cover image. We're not going to worry about a system prompt. And down here, you will see this says it parsed 20 chapters and approximately 51,000 words, which is correct. So I'm going to go ahead and import, and it's going to take a second. Oh, there we go. And then it's going to load this. If I open it up, and if I open up manuscript, you'll see it loaded into the manuscript folder, which is what it's supposed to do. And if I click here, this is our first chapter. That is something that we're still working on. It will load when you load a new project or a project that hasn't been opened before, a lot of times what you'll see in the editor is actually the file that was last open in whatever last project you had. All you have to do is click into any of the files of the new project, FYI. Okay, so we've got chapter 1. So now we're going to scroll through and really quickly I see I've got italics here. Great. And then if I come down here, I've got bold here. Good. And I think that was, yeah, and then there's a little bit more italics here. All good. And you will see that there are word counts for each of my chapters. So if I just click through, these are all looking correct. Oh, and I'm managing to only get Sven. There we go. Sven and Nina. There we go. And so that is all you have to do to import. We're going to do one more just because we can. So we're going to do the other one that I showed you. So that's that one. So I'm going to do an import. I'm going to import docx. I am going to choose. I am going to show all files. And I'm going to do a little search over here. I'm going to open. This will say empath and incubus. I click next. Again, here it's going to have me set all of this information. This is a novella. And right here it says parsed 18 chapters, approximately 13,000 words. And if you'll notice the target word count, it grabbed a word count that is similar, basically the closest like normal word count to the project that loaded. Parse 8 chapters, approximately 13,000 words. So I'm going to go ahead and click import. Again, there isn't a loading. You're just going to leave it for a second. And there we go. We've got our 2 new projects. And again, this is showing something from the last project because this one hasn't been opened. If I open here, here we go. Oh, I did not save that document, so it did add the hashes. So that's what I told you, is that even though the hash is technically for a markdown, it would just add it to the title because the key thing in the other program is, I just didn't save this, that's why, is that this is set to heading 1. So it will pull either and it will break them apart this way. And that is all there is to it. So there is something to note, is that with the import, that it is going to load chapters as H1s. So if you're loading a document for something like your blueprint or your story information, that if you had those as H1s, it would pull in as different files, but it's going to pull in as chapter files and it's going to pull into the manuscript file. Okay. So if you wanted to use the general import to import files that are not just chapters, so what you would do is you'd use the H1, just like you would if you were doing the manuscript. Now, you're going to import it in. It's going to import into the manuscript folder, and it is going to set all of those files as chapters. There are 2 ways to convert chapter file types to a different file type. So what you would then do, and I would probably label them logically. So I would make sure that my style guide has style as the H1, world build, similar to how the blueprint files are set up. So you would have that and you would come in one way to do this is to do the 3-dot menu. You're going to hit change file type. And here I actually did this. So this is it was an idea, changed it to chapter, but I can go here, change file type. If this was my story Bible or my world build or what have you. Now you might have to scroll on the sidebar to be able to see all the options. There's also a scroll bar here for the other file types, but I could set that to outline. That is now an outline file. And that's an easy way to do it. Now also, if I come in here and I always forget if it's called the backslash or forward slash. I think this is the backslash. And you can type in a command. This is the command palette. So one, I can go question mark and it'll show me all of the different, commands. There we go. It'll show you all of the commands that are currently available. So you'll see DRN and a name is rename document. You can do new with a name as well. You can move document to folder. You can change document file type. So we're going to delete our question mark. We're going to go DCON. And now I can convert this to a different file type. So I can convert this back to my chapter. And you will see now that is a chapter. So that is one way you can do it. The other option would be to take whatever, and you would need all of your files in one file. So if you're exporting, you'd want all of your background story information in one file too, so that you can do the H1s. If you're doing the project import like I just showed you, or what you could do if you have it in one file and you wanted the folders, like the nice folders and like everything neat that way, you would use the blueprint. So instead you would create a blueprint file here and you would copy in all of your story background information and then you would format it according to the blueprints. #1. This changes it to H1. And now I can say notes. And this is going to be the folder and it's also going to be the file type. Note 1, something here. Okay, So that would be actually, and this would be H2. So this would be a file. This would be a folder. So H1 is a folder and also denotes file type if it is a file type. So the file types right here, note, outline, blueprint, story Bible, world build, ideas, character, style, locations, and timeline. These are all of the file types that are supported minus blueprint for obvious reasons, because that's the file type you're in. All of these are workable for the blueprint parser. And then if you click just this add button, that's a new chapter. This is new folder. Okay. So if you're in the blueprint, H1 is your folder, H2 is a file in that folder, and then here would be your notes. And then if you had something that wasn't world build, story Bible, et cetera, from that list. So maybe I have research. So that's my H1. So this will be my folder, but there isn't a research file type, but that's okay. So I'm going to come here. I'm going to do H2, good research. I'm very creative at the moment. And research here. What that would be is the folder will be called research, and any file in the research folder will be a note. So if it is not a file type that is registered in Poly, it will be created with whatever folder the H2 is in. So this is the H1, any H2 between this and another H1 is going to go into this as a folder. And so this would, good research would come in here as the file for the research folder. Okay, so hopefully that makes sense. You can do it either way, and you could copy and paste in here, or you could do too, if you had all of your files in one, you could just do only one. Oh, what am I thinking? Oh, you could put all of the blueprint into one file and then just copy and paste that file in, or you could do it this way with the chapters. A little bit redundant there. And we do now have in the latest file, in the latest Paging Poly version, we do have change file type here in the 3-dot menu. So hopefully that helps. And then really quickly to export in here, if you click this button right here, it exports your manuscript to docx in the same format that we import in, meaning all the chapters are H1s, and it only does chapter file types in the manuscript folder. If you want to export the entire project, we're going to come back out here to library. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to do do I need to do, yeah, 3 dots. So I'm going to do 3 dots, and then I can export as a JSON file. If you guys wanted a docx for the entire project or like a zip folder or something along those lines, let me know, and that's something I can consider. Right now, this is set up to import back into Paging Poly. So if you export the JSON file, it'll be right here. And then if I go import, I can now import that JSON instead of the docx, and it will load in exactly. So it'll have your folders, it'll have all that stuff. But if you want a different format for exporting that information, we can work on that for you guys. Okay, hopefully that helps with the import and export of projects. And do not forget, always back up your projects. Seriously, I know this is like millennial trauma from Microsoft Word, just like deleting essays and stuff as I was a child. But seriously, like anything can happen on the interwebs. The great thing about Poly is that this information and data is all yours. But that also does mean that all of the responsibility of that data being yours is also on you. So make sure you have backup set up, because again, like these are your servers, they're not on ours, so we cannot access anything on your behalf. It's all on your server. So make sure you're doing exports. I can do a video on some of my favorite backup plugins for WordPress, both free and paid. I do think that if you're going to be using Paging Poly for your professional work, it does not hurt to get a paid backup plugin. Something that we are looking into is some form of automatic backup to S3 or Blaze, but those do cost money. They're essentially cloud servers, but it is a lot easier to set up to send to those than Google Drive. I think I might still do Google Drive, but you have to get into Google Cloud Console. Anybody that has set up NAN knows what I'm talking about to connect to Google. It's a multi-step process. Let's just put it that way. But there we go. So hopefully that helps. We'll see you in the next one.